Bonjour à tous, nous commençons ainsi la croisière d'Amsterdam à travers la pirogue, un tour dans la pirogue pour découvrir la ville d'Amsterdam. Voilà, nous commençons notre randonnée. Estamos empezando nuestra salida para poder descubrir la ciudad de Amsterdam, una ciudad muy bonita. Espero que ustedes disfrutarán. Wir beginnen also die Fahrt durch die Stadt von Amsterdam. Das ist eine wunderschöne Stadt. Sie werden wir werden diese Stadt besichtigen mit einem Boot. Ja, das wird super sein. Prima, toll. Bis gleich. Los geht's.
Welcome to our beautiful city of Amsterdam, and welcome aboard this unique canal cruise.
To make this journey as safe and pleasant as possible, please follow these rules of the boat. Please do not stand on the chairs or benches. The space behind the captain should be kept free of any objects. And whatever you do, please keep your arms and head inside the boat at all times. Some of the bridges are very low, and they come up suddenly.
In the case of an emergency, take a moment to note where the emergency exits are. There are two at the front of the boat, one to the left and one to the right, and another through the hatch door in the roof. This boat is equipped with life-saving equipment. And if an emergency situation arises, the captain will distribute them and give you instructions. Remember, this is a non-smoking cruise.
When you exit the boat, please check and double-check that you have all your belongings with you. Any questions? Your captain is here to assist you. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the cruise.
Welcome to Amsterdam, capital city of the Netherlands. What better way to experience this compact and very international city than from the unique perspective of its waterways? There certainly are a lot of them. This city has over 100 kilometers of canal. Amsterdam is known for being friendly, open-minded, and progressive. It's a popular place to visit and do business. Just think, in a population of only 800,000 people, you can meet 170 different nationalities.
This area's rich history adds a sparkle that's never far below the surface. During the 17th century, Amsterdam shone especially bright, like gold. This golden age was an extraordinary time. Politics, art, and business all reached new levels of sophistication. Dutch shipbuilders revolutionized sailing. Amsterdam boasted a thriving stock exchange, and painters like Rembrandt and Vermeer produced remarkable art.
With 10 million visitors per year, the Wandelpark is Amsterdam's largest park. Once exclusively used by the wealthy to walk and ride horses, it's now a free public park for all. The Dutch airline KLM's 1970s ad campaign to fly KLM, visit Amsterdam, and sleep in the Wandelpark attracted a lot of American hippies and helped change the park's image.
Just a short walk from the Wandelpark is Max Verstappen, a square honoring the Dutch world champion chess player Max Verstappen. It features a giant chess set and a chess museum. Leidseplein is also close by. Once an entry point to the city, it has long been loaded with hostels, theaters, and bars meant to welcome and entertain weary travelers.
If you want to have this afternoon a nice picnic or sit relax outside, the Vondelpark is a very nice area to go to. That's a very nice atmosphere.
What the Netherlands lacks in size, it makes up for in enthusiasm. The Dutch come from a small country, but this hasn't prevented them from making their mark on the world. Their curious nature and tenacity has been apparent since the Golden Age, when Dutch explorers sailed far and wide and set up settlements in faraway places like New Holland and New Amsterdam, which have since been renamed Australia and New York. As a people, the Dutch are eager to learn and have gained some international recognition in many areas, including DJs and music, ice skating, soccer, flower cultivation, water management, and ship and bridge building. The Dutch work hard to stand out from their neighbors while also embracing them. Most Dutch know at least 2 languages, often more.
In a moment we are going to turn to the right to the Leidse Gracht, Canal of Leiden. Leiden is a nice city south of Amsterdam. If you've got more time in the Netherlands, it's a very nice city to visit as well. It's very easy to reach from Central Station by train, and it will take about half an hour, 35 minutes. But nice of this canal is that we can cross, following this canal, all the 3 main canals. Canal of the Princes, that's the first one. The second one, Canal of the Emperors. And the last one, and we're gonna sail part of it, Canal of the Lords. Yeah, I saw my phone was ringing. Leave it, yeah. Yeah, I called back.
We are now on the Leidse Gracht, or Leidse Canal, a connector canal which cuts across the 3 main canals. Until the 18th century, house numbers didn't exist in Amsterdam. Instead, people relied on gable stones. These carved and sometimes colorfully painted stones were set into a house's facade, often above the door. Pictures made reference to the occupant's religion, profession, or their family crest. For example, a butcher might have a picture of a lamb, a dentist might have a tooth, a miller, a window.
As we ride along the canals, keep an eye out for gable stones. There are more than 650 throughout the city. As you find them, you can challenge yourself by guessing what they might mean.
Builders, merchants, investors, and politicians built elegant mansions on the Herengracht. The Keizersgracht was solidly middle class, while the Prinsengracht had a more industrial atmosphere. Of the 3 canals, the Prinsengracht was the only one that connected directly to the harbor, and its low sides were designed for loading and unloading cargo.
And the lower your social class. Today, this would no longer hold true. All of the city center is expensive.
Hier zitten nog een paar waterfietsen achter de lijn. En dan ga je naar de Leidse overkijken naar de Heer.
Kijk uit de Prinsen kruis lijkt toch.
Ja, dan kom je mee naar de
Nou, daar wordt het buurman gesproken over.
Bereid naar Leidse Heer en naar Brouwer.
Ga je de leuk in vast hier? Kom maar. Jo, heel bedankt.
We're now on Herrengracht, or the Gentleman's Canal. It was part of a careful plan to expand the city. In the early 17th century, a time of tremendous physical and economic growth, 3 new canals were laid out in concentric rings. The Herrengracht was innermost. The Kaisersgracht, or Emperor's Canal, was in the middle, followed by the Prinsengracht, or the Prince's Canal.
The wealthiest citizens, shipbuilders, merchants, investors, and politicians built elegant mansions on the Herrengracht. The Kaisersgracht was solidly middle class, while the Prinsengracht had a more industrial atmosphere. Of the 3 canals, the Prinsengracht was the only one that connected directly to the harbor, and its low sides were designed for loading and unloading cargo.
And so, the farther you lived from the city center, the lower your social class. Today, this would no longer hold true. All of the city center is expensive. Decorated canal houses. There's so much to notice. So many flourishes and details. Ornate door cases, sculptures, and of course, the decorative gables at the roofline.
There are several different types of gables, and over the decades, they've gone in and out of fashion. See if you can spot them all. The oldest type is the spout gable. This basic triangular shape is seen only on warehouses. The 17th century step gable looks just as you'd expect, a series of steps. The neck gable, with its straight up and down sides and scrollwork decorations, came a bit later, followed by the bell gable, which has a more rounded, bell-like shape. By the 18th century, the cornice, a flat-top gable, was most popular.
There's one thing that all gables have in common: the hoisting beam. Staircases were so narrow and steep, that furniture and goods were lifted to the upper floors via the hoisting beam, along with a good strong rope, a hook, and a pulley. Goods were generally stored up high to keep them dry during the city's frequent floods. There's a strong tradition of moving things this way, as even newly constructed houses have narrow stairways and are still equipped with hoisting beams.
Until the 18th century, house numbers didn't exist in Amsterdam. Instead, people relied on gable stones. These carved and sometimes colorfully painted stones were set into a house's facade, often above the door. Pictures made reference to the occupant's origin, profession, or their family crest. For example, a butcher might have a picture of a lamb, a dentist might have a tooth, a miller a window. Illiteracy was high, but such symbols were easy to understand.
As we ride along the canals, keep an eye out for gable stones. There are more than 650 throughout the city. As you find them, you can challenge yourself by guessing what they might mean.
You may have noticed that most of the city's houses are made of brick. That's because bricks could be made locally. They were very porous compared to bricks of today, and had to be oiled, tarred, or painted to protect them against the weather. You'll only see stone on the facades of the wealthiest of homes, because it had to be imported, costing much more than brick.
For the shoppers among us, to the west or left of here is a unique shopping district called 9 straatjes, or 9 little streets. Each street is a block long and full of quirky boutiques and specialty shops. It's a relaxing and fun place to explore.
Yes, I can recommend to you the 9 small streets because in the big shopping streets you will find the shops you can find at home as well. So maybe it's a good idea to go this area, and it's behind us.
Daniel's 17th century red brick mansion with white sandstone accents. This is the Bilote House, designed by Hendrik de Keyser, Amsterdam's most famous architect of the time. It was built for a very successful beer brewer named Willem van de Heuvel. He changed his name to Bartolani to honor an Italian relative who had left him a sizable inheritance. The facade has 2 inscribed panels that reflect
That emphasizes strict living and industriousness. The rich found themselves in conflict. Their religion required them to be humble, yet with so much wealth, how could they not show it off? Often they ended up quietly trying to outdo each other.
There are several canal houses you can visit, so and I think you cannot leave this city without visiting one of them. The Bilote House can be visited as well, and sometimes these houses look at the outside a little bit modest, but on the inside they're like real palaces, I guarantee you. Maybe you notice walking through these canals, you see there's a lot of... And later after this bridge they're building new walls over there, because the city council neglected a little bit the maintenance of these walls. A lot of these old walls are still on their original wooden foundation, so it needs nowadays a concrete foundation. There have to be built about 200 kilometers of this kind of wall, so that's going to be an immensely big job. But they started doing it. You can see it after the next bridge at the right hand side, and maybe in 10 years, 15 years they finish this 200 kilometers of wall.
de geest van Heer de Lelie op.
Have you noticed how many homes have brick facades or faces? At first, Amsterdammers built their homes entirely out of wood, but after two massive fires at the end of the 16th century, the city took action. It passed a law requiring that all newly constructed buildings have facades made of non-flammable brick or stone. But all older buildings were still made of wood, and Amsterdam experienced one of its biggest fires along the Keizersgracht during the 18th century. Today, the risk of fire persists. Even though reinforced concrete is used for new construction, many of the older houses still have their original wooden skeletons.
De geest elektriciteit. Zo, van de middag naar oost. Bij wat mag je gaan opschrijven voor als je wil, maar de treintje op. Rome op 15. Brouwers, machines. En nog niet?
We are now approaching Brouwersgracht, or the Brewer's Canal. This canal was part of the city's 17th century expansion. It connects the three main canals, the Herengracht, the Keizersgracht, and the Prinsengracht, and used to form the northwest border of the city. With its arched bridges, many houseboats, and beautiful architecture, it's now one of the most picturesque waterways in the city.
But that wasn't always the case. Many of the industries banned from residential areas ended up here. That included the smelly ones, like leather and whale oil processing. And of course, beer brewing, which gave the Brewer's Canal its name. Because water quality was so poor, people turned to beer as a safer, healthier drink. Only the rich could afford wine, which was imported. But everyone drank beer.
Many of the buildings you see are old workshops and factories, or warehouses. Merchants originally stored goods in their houses, but as trade increased, more and more warehouses were built. See if you can spot some. Look for triangular spout gables and windows with wooden shutters. The shutters help keep goods dry and dry.
Back in the 17th century, when Brouwersgracht was at the edge of the city, ships sailing for the Dutch East Indian Trading Company would come here to unload silks and spices from the Far East. And for a time, the Dutch West Indian Trading Company had an office along this canal. This powerful company traded in sugar, tobacco, tropical wood, furs and ivory, and had a monopoly on trade with the West Indies. Its ships also transported slaves from Africa to the Americas. An interesting side note, even though some of Amsterdam's merchants traded in slaves, they were never employed in Dutch households.
Aside from the East Indian and West Indian trading companies, the Noordse or
And more pleasant. And luckily, the canal water is much cleaner than it used to be. It's now filled with a number of creatures, including fish and crabs. Several types of water birds are also happy to make these waters their home.
Nogmaals, Breiter, Brouwer, Haarlemmer. Voor mij zit nog een motorbootje.
And no talk about transportation in Amsterdam would be complete without mentioning bicycles. You've probably figured out that they're Amsterdammers' favorite mode of transport. All around Central Station are places to park, from a huge multi-level bike parking area to a converted ferry filled to capacity with bikes. More people bike than drive to work, and it's estimated that the city has around 1.6 million bikes. That's more bikes than people. In typical Dutch style, the bikes are very practical. Single-speed coasters with foot brakes, sometimes with a crate in front for carrying everything under the sun, including children. In Amsterdam, expect to see everyone.
Artificial islands and is supported by around 8,600 wooden piles. The building was designed by two architects, Kuipers and Van Gent, and its front is really quite amazing. Made of red brick and white accents, it's a combination of Neo-Renaissance style and Neo-Gothic towers, and is called eclectical architecture.
Maybe you noticed that the bike parking at our left-hand side is closed. And there are no bikes in there. We don't need it anymore because we built ourselves a brand new bike parking. And you will ask, where is that bike parking? Now, we are on top of it. It's beneath the water. There's a brand new bike parking for 11,000 bikes over there. And its main entrance you can see right after this bridge at our right-hand side.
Deze vaart. 4 keer.
Dan moet ik even geduld hebben. Dankjewel. Er komen 4 boten aan.
Is it possible to buy
Ciao. Single, ahead. Nu heb ik dan weg. Ja, live aan de fietsen, die willen rijden. Na de flying wil de zaterdag afsluiten met de haven doen. Gemarkeerd, zo, snel.
Achter de blok op de radio kun je ook al wel opgooien.
Even bel.
There are no straight lines in Amsterdam city center, but instead concentric canals lined and crisscrossed by streets some centuries old. Amsterdam has almost 100 kilometers or 60 miles of canals, even more than Venice.
The city grew up around Dam Square, where the Amstel River was dammed in the 13th century, giving Amsterdam its name. In Old Dutch, it means dam built across the Amstel.
Over time, land was reclaimed from the sea, ramparts were raised, and canals were dug as part of an ever-evolving cityscape.
If you want to have this afternoon a drink on a nice spot with a beautiful view, maybe it's a good idea to go to the bar of the Doubletree Hotel at our left-hand side. It has a really nice view and a roof terrace as well.
Is the former Bootfahrt house, or shipping house. A group of shipping companies ran their businesses from here. This early 20th century building is considered to be the first true example of the Amsterdam school style of architecture. The front of the building is impressively adorned with statues of Neptune, his wife, and 4 figures that represent the points of the compass. The building is decorated inside and out with all kinds of nautical symbols, anchors, ships, and famous Dutch mariners. It's now a 5-star luxury hotel.
And other nice spots with a nice view, and that's a little bit cheaper. The roof terrace of the public library, you can see there the signs Bibliotheek. That's the public library, that's a free entry. And of course on the roof of the Nemo Museum, the green building in front of us, there's a roof terrace as well. The Nemo is a science museum. And to our front we see an old building, and that's the Marine Museum. Originally one of the buildings of the Dutch Marine, not anymore. And it's a
The golden age
very
of the
nice
17th
place to go.
century was a stellar time for Amsterdam. From politics and the economy to arts and science, everything flourished. And the city was now the most important trade center in Europe. There are many reasons for Amsterdam's astounding success. It had the largest and most progressive shipbuilding industry in Europe. Dutch traders sailed farther than anyone else to newly discovered lands in the Far East and to North and South America. They organized into companies like the Dutch East Indian Company and the Dutch West Indian Company. And the profits from trading staples like grain and exotics such as spices, porcelain, precious stones, and textiles were enormous.
Kaiser am Funk. Danke, vergaan, Sir Barrow.
To the left, salt marsh and the North Sea. The red brick tower coming up ahead of us is the medieval model bond store. An ideal lookout for sighting potential invaders, it was built to protect the city's shipyards, wharves, and warehouses from attack. We're about to pass through one of the city's old blocks. The small, tippy black building was once the lockmaster's house. It's now a pub and cafe full of 17th century charm, stone floors, wooden benches, and exposed seating rooms. Its outdoor patio is a great place for watching boats on the canal.
And if you look very carefully to this black house, you see that it's tilting to the left. Of course, it has a problem with its old wooden foundation. But for this house, it's not a problem. Because it's a bar right now, as I told you, and the bartender put the sign behind.
We're now approaching the Waterloo Plain. It's located adjacent to the City Hall, the large red brick building. The original Waterloo Plain was an island built in the 17th century to create a space for Jewish settlers. At the time, it was called Vloeienberg, or Flooding Island. Over time, the name morphed into Vlooienberg, or Flea Island, and the bustling market held here was called the Flea Market.
For centuries, Jewish traders sold their wares here. The market continues to operate and is now known as the largest flea market in the Netherlands.
And as you're told, just the red brick building at your left-hand side is our city hall. I think we've got the ugliest city hall of all Europe. I think you agree, as I can hear you. We think that to the French, I'm sorry, when Napoleon came to the Netherlands at the beginning of the 19th century, he made his brother king of the Netherlands, and of course a king needs a palace. And what did this bloody Napoleon do? He gave away our beautiful city hall to his brother as a royal palace. So since then we've got a royal palace on Dam Square, and we've got this ugly, ugly city hall. So the royal palace on Dam Square used to be our city hall. Merci beaucoup. I wanted to show you some more crude houses because you shouldn't miss it. I'm making a turn to the right and then a U-turn, so you can see it very well from both sides. It are very nice crude houses in a moment at our left-hand side.
Look at the group of very crooked houses. We affectionately refer to them as the dancing houses because they look like they're tilting and swaying to some happy tune. These buildings get their crazy tilts from the wooden piles that are supposed to be holding them up. Another story. It has nothing to do with rotting piles. The facades, or the faces of buildings, were intentionally built this way. In fact, a 16th century law put limits on how far a building could lean forward, lest it topple down.
Komen we terug bij die lijstjes verwachting teruggaan deze.
Does any one of you has a bad marriage? Nobody? I don't believe you. Okay, think about me. Think about my story. I've got a solution for you. You see, one of the dancing houses is a hotel, the one with the black sunscreens. And not only the hotel's crooked, they told me the rooms are crooked as well. So, book yourself tonight or maybe next week or when you're at both sides of the bed. I promise you, at the end of the night you will be laying at one side of the bed in each other's arms, no problem anymore. With left as well, you see a small canal with at the end of this canal the tower of the Southern Church. The Southern Church is the oldest originally Protestant built church. Days, the city expanded very fast, so they didn't need the old wall anymore. So what they do, they built it with these bricks. They demolished the wall, of course, first, and then with these bricks they built this church.
We're now on the Amstel River. The round, white-faced building you see next to the City Hall is the Muziek Theater, or Music Theater. It's home to the Dutch Opera, known for its daring productions, the Holland Sinfonia, and the world-renowned Dutch National Ballet. The Dutch may be known for their tolerant attitudes, but they also have strong opinions. This piece of architecture was met with heavy protests that have since simmered down. In fact, that's how it got its name, Stopera. It's derived from the movement against the construction, Stop the Opera.